God says what he promised is happening now. God says what he promised is happening now, meaning that it is happening. It is a current thing that although you do not see the end result, although you may not even see any evidence that he is currently causing it to transpire, the events of whatever it is that God has promised to you. Okay, let's get into this. This is a continuation of the word that I gave concerning God saying that he was restoring America and the black race back to its rightful standing. And the scriptures from that particular word was Psalms 50 and 54, Zechariah 3, 5 through 7, Isaiah 22:22, Deuteronomy 28:8, and Deuteronomy 8:18. Okay, that was the original message, which is this is piggybacking from. Okay, and this one is a warning. God is giving a warning, and with this warning, he used the scripture Matthew 18:21 through 35, and it says the unforgiving servant. And in this story of the unforgiving servant, it talks about this man who owes this king a certain amount of money. And the king has this kind heart and he says, "Oh, I forgive you. I forgive you your debt. You don't have to pay me. Go and take care of your family. Go and take care of your, livestock or whatever." And so the man was grateful for what it was that the king had forgiven him for. And then the man goes off, and later on, the king hears that this same man ends up having a servant of his own who owes him money as well. But this man goes to the extreme and punishes this man and his family for owing him money. And the king hears of that, and the king tells them to bring him back and bring his family as well, I think. And they were punished. They all were put into slavery for that particular king. Okay, so that is what this message, that's the scripture this message is going to be piggybacked on, used. So it's still referring to Black America. Well, this one is actually referring to Black America in the African American race. Okay, so the original word was a promise of restoration to America itself and to the Black African American race. Okay, so this is particularly for the African American race. This is a warning from God saying, do not be like that servant. Do not be the servant who was forgiven debt, that was forgiven a whole bunch, and then get to the point of having this power, and you yourself don't understand compassion and how to forgive someone else, not to repay evil for evil. Okay, so it says, be mindful that when you have received, and then God says, been granted. Okay, access granted. So be mindful that when you have received or been granted your reward, do not despise it. Okay, this is for some. Do not despise it, because a lot of people, when God blesses you, or when he blesses us, because I am of the African American race, certain things that he blesses us with, to some eyes, it will be despised, okay, because of the belief system. But that's something we have to break, okay? So do not covet it. To some, they are not used to the blessing that God is about to provide. So it'll be so much that they will try to covet it, okay? He says, do not covet it. For them, it will be so much, okay? To some, it won't seem like enough because they've had more, or they've had better, or kind of like the children of Israel when they were brought out of Egypt. They complained and they said it was better back in Egypt, when the whole time, no matter how much you had in Egypt, you were enslaved. You know what I mean? So you have your freedom, like physical, mental, you have your freedom, but apparently they were not free in their mind because they were thinking that it was better to be back. Okay, and that's what God is trying to pre-warn you of. He's trying to get you to see that thought may come about, that action of people trying to pressure you and make you feel like your blessing is less than, or your blessing is I don't know why I want to say adequate, but adequate still means that it's not enough. Like it is not adequate enough, or that it is too much for you. Like they may make you feel like, kind of like the story of Sarah's oil when we went and watched that movie, where they said that black people in that time could not be responsible for so much of what it was that they were coming about, because they were discovering oil and creating businesses, and they had made it to where they would put like overseers over over the African American race when they became more fortunate in finances. But they do that to celebrities as well. We know a few like Britney Spears and I don't know, Britney Spears, but they do that to them as well. They put like this overseer over their money, and they can't or can do certain things, and you do not want to sign contracts like that. Okay, people, there are a lot of people who are about to become famous who have not experienced nothing near it, haven't seen anyone in your family, you ain't got no connections, you know what I mean? You're just about to be blessed in such a way that it may overwhelm you, but don't allow it to overwhelm you. Do not sign over your blessing in someone else's hand, thinking that the blessing in their hand is going to be, you know, protected in some kind of way. I'm not saying do not be smart and manage and steward your money well. Do whatever it is that God places in your heart. I know a lot of things that he is about to destroy that we are used to, it's about to be no more. So I can't say put it in a bank. We may not have no more banks. You know what I mean? And I am so serious. God has really been giving me this forewarning of a lot of things are about to be destroyed. I may not be here in the destroying. I'm just delivering the word. So this word is a right now, it's happening word, and it also can be a future tense word, but we're going to go with the Spirit of the Lord, and God says it is happening now. Okay? It says, do not despise it, do not covet it, and do not allow my power to cause you to bring harm to others. Okay, God does not want you to take what he is granting you, which is his power, all right, his strength, his ability to gain wealth, all right. He doesn't want you to take that and use it to harm other people. That is why he's destroying things, okay? This is the reason why things are being destroyed, because of this very fact that people take God's power, God's finances, okay, and they use it for their ill will, their own gain. In the fact that God gives us free will, you know, it looks like they have succeeded, you know what I mean? But God says there is a time that I will repay you, and that time is happening now, okay? It says, it was I that caused you to rise, and if forgotten, it will be I who demands repayment. Okay. He says it was him who caused us to rise, or who is causing us to rise. And it is as well him who will be the one who is demanding repayment. Okay. So just as he had the power to grant you access of what you are entering, he also has that power to take away, you know, that access that he's given to you. You know what I mean? Pastor Mike was talking about this story one time. It was a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago, maybe. And he was talking about how he had access to Disney because he was talking to the teenagers or something. And he was saying how he has this card they gave him like this access granted to where he could go underneath rides and like get in the front of the line. It wasn't like the all access pass that you have at the top where you can jump the line, because there are other people who bought that same pass, so you still have to stand in a long line. He was like, no, they went underneath, like rode carts and elevators and things to get him to the front of the line. And then the thing about it is he had other people with him, so he had to get somewhere and he had to leave early, and the people themselves were not ready to leave. Like they had a flight 2 hours or an hour or so after his, so they wanted to remain. And so he says one guy turns and tells the guy at Disney, like, okay, I'm going to go take him to the airport. Like he's making moves and things. I'm going to go take him to the airport and we're going to come back. The guy was like, I don't think you know how this works. Basically saying like the access, yes, it's full access as long as you want, but it ain't for you. The access was not granted based off of your name. The access was granted based off of Pastor Mike's name. So when Pastor Mike leaves, then so does the access granted. So as soon as you decide to lay down God's name, as soon as you decide to do it in your own way, as soon as you decide to not give that person who God said give to, or to whatever, withhold whatever it is that God is telling you to deliver. Once you choose to remove God out of the equation, then the all access granted is no more. All right, I want you guys to make sure you understand that the access granted is no more. Okay, so God says, take my power. And then in this, what he has given me right here, he is referring to like the signet ring of the king, kind of like in the story of Hadassah or Esther and Mordecai and the king, when he gave his signet ring to his component or friend, not component, to his friend to help him in making decisions in the kingdom. So they would make and that's what's going on now in the government. Okay, this is like a judicial system, legislative, branch or whatever. But anyway, they made the rules, and then all they needed was the signature of the king. The king trusted them. Good name takes you a long way. The king trusted them enough to make the rules that were according to the land, or that would better the land. And so the king would just give the ring, or just would stamp it with his ring. That is what God is saying to us, Black America. Okay, God says he is granting you access to his signet ring, his power, his protection, his will to, your ability to speak and make things come about. He is giving you that power. Okay, take my power as granted, use it to your liking, according to the covenant that I have given you. He refers to us as Jerusalem. Okay, that's what he refers to us as. These that I have punished are mine. They belong to me too. He is referring to those that he is about to punish while he is rising you up. He is taking someone else down. Okay, so he says, these that I have punished are mine. They belong to me too. So don't be out here be like, aha, nan, and a boo boo, because just as he rose you up and lowered them, he also can rise them back up and lower you. Okay, so it says, some have fallen, some will return, and yet there are many left to fail. And for some reason in this, he says not fall. There are many left to fail, meaning because when you fall, you can always get back up. Okay, but when you fail, it's like it's no more. Okay, you failed. You failed that task. You can't retry. You failed that, or so on and so forth. And then he gave me preordained blindness. That's what he means by the yet there are many left to fail. Okay, he has preordained many to walk in blindness. There are many who will never change their hearts. There are many who will never see it how God desires them to see it. And that is sad, because that means that they do not have a teachable spirit. That's sad. Okay, that is sad. That is very sad, because they won't ever actually experience the fullness of God. They'll always only access that part of him that they themselves feel like they know. You know what I mean? And it's so sad to just assume you know someone. It is really nice to get reacquainted with someone that you feel like you already know. Every now and then, I sit my children down and I'm like, hey, what is it that you like? Like, what type of cartoons are you in now? What do you watch on YouTube now? Like, what is it? Is there anything new that you would like to get into? I just found out yesterday or the day before that my daughter wants to start knitting and crocheting. Oh, that's something she wasn't doing or thinking about 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So, it is always good to get reacquainted with people that life causes you to become too familiar with, okay? Especially God. Always get reacquainted with God, okay? Sometimes God will cause you, and I'm going back to the preordained blindness. Sometimes God will cause you to see or not see a situation clearly. Hold on. All right, I'm back. I was saying sometimes God will cause you to see or not see a situation clearly the first time around. This tests your trust, proves his sovereignty, builds your belief, and produces understanding if you receive the revelation. Some die in blindness, hardened by a reprobate mind. Okay? And here, for the reprobate mind, God gave me Romans 1:28. And it says, and even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to reprobate mind to do those things which are not fitting. Okay? And do not put an image on when it says the things that are not fitting. Do not label that, because something that is not fitting can just be basically doing what God told you don't do. And it could be something that you feel like is something good that, oh, this is a God thing. Whole time God didn't tell you to do that. He told you specifically don't do it. And just because you felt like it was a good thing, it'll make your image look good, you did it anyway. So that could be something that is not fitting. So when you read things like not fitting or sin, don't put a label on what that sin is considered or what that not fitting is talking about. Make sure that whatever it is, make sure you get that from God too, to let you know what you're doing wrong. Okay? But basically, a reprobate mind is just God turning you over to do what it is that you want to do, although it isn't what he desires for you to do. Like in this moment, he's giving me a couple scriptures, I think, where the people were begging for a king. They were asking for a king and begging for a king, and God finally granted them with kings. We were not originally supposed to have kings. God, we were supposed to go to God, just as Jesus came and were telling us that is how we're supposed to, our relationship is supposed to be. That's why the veil was removed. The veil was the centerpiece between, us and God. So from the beginning, we've always been supposed to go straight to God, but we ourselves kept on crying out for something that God didn't want us to have, but because he loves us, and because we probably were persistent, because his word says, ask and it shall be given, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be open unto you. So if he does not give it to us when we constantly ask, then it proves that he himself is a lie and God is not a lie. Okay. So he turns us over to our own hearts and to our own desires, and we begin to see things as truth that are actually lies. Okay. So it says, and this goes back to what I was just about to say. What I just said. It causes us to see things as truth that are actually lies. And here is the instruction to that, to help us to come out of that, and to help us to help the next generations to come out of that. It says, when placed in a higher position, previous people, the people who are familiar with how it is ran, would sometimes expect you to come in and run the program how it already been ran. Okay. Well, that ain't working. Nobody is realizing that ain't working. Okay, we get these presidents and we get these different people, and even us as a governmental system, like even us as citizens, we're doing the same things. And that is insanity. I've discovered in the past years that continuing to do something and expecting different results, that's insanity, and you're getting the same results. That's insanity. Okay. So that is what God is saying to us. We are an insane people. We are loco, you guys. That's what God says. We are crazy people, because we constantly pray for something greater, and then when we receive that blessing of something greater, we demand that it be the same. Don't come changing anything. Don't mess with that. We like that way. I've seen it happen many a times in the church, where pastors come in and then the people of the church decide, hey, they're not doing it how we want it done. We need it done like this. And they go through pastor after pastor after pastor only because they are searching around for satisfaction of their flesh and not necessarily the Spirit of the Lord. Okay. And so God says, be okay with taking down monumental things. Okay. Monumental things doesn't always mean statues, but best believe that is one of them. Okay. So be okay with taking down statues. God says, be happy. Okay. You and your God-fearing people get your chains and be happy to tear down some things, okay? When God places you in position. God says, be okay with restarting. There are a lot of things and a lot of places that he's going to put people, and they are literally going to have to keep the system, keep what it is that is going, but restart the whole thing, like do a whole master reboot to a whole bunch of things, kind of like learning. School. He wants school to remain, but there will have to be a master reset to school and the things that are taught, the way that people feel like their child should learn. You know what I mean? It's going to be a whole master reset. What we should teach our children? Should we constantly keep reminding our kids of things that are going to bring up hate? Or should we move past that? Is history helping us? Is remembering that type of history actually helping the people? Let's learn to remember the history of God. Let's get past all of the other things and let's learn to remember the history of God. What are the greater things of God? Not the things that people are telling you to remember. That is causing anger. That is causing, you know what I mean, stress. That is causing fear in your life, okay? For the white people, it causes fear when your parents sit you down and tell you the characteristics of what they believe a black person is. It brings fear into your life. That's what makes you click your door locks when you see them, okay? And then what the news is presenting, the news never presents anything about a class of 300 from a high school all graduating and at least 250 got accepted to college. You know what I mean? They're never broadcasting things like that. So the imagery that they are giving to you is what causes you to look at us in that way. And the same thing with us to you guys. Okay. So there are a lot of things that are going to have to be restarted from scratch. Some things are going to have to be totally forgotten about. Okay. There are some things that God is going to totally sweep away and there will be no remembrance of it anymore. Okay. There will be remnants of the story of what happened to it, like Sodom and Gomorrah, but there will be no remnants of its existence. Okay. And it doesn't have to mean cities. It can mean stores. He has given me visions about store brands and different things like that. This video is getting, very long. Okay, it says, it's like the adventure movie where this group may be looking for ancient treasure. One person from the group takes what they don't believe to be cursed pieces, while the others fight tooth and nail to get them to see why taking the treasure back would be a better option than riches. Okay, God says he wants you to understand that the things that may look like riches that you may have to tear down, that you may have to burn, that you may have to cancel or destroy, they may look like things that are bringing in good cash. They may look like things that are tourist attractions, okay? But at the same time, God says these are things that have caused you to be accursed. These are things that have put you in the cycle that you are in. These are the things that have caused you to experience the stress that you are experiencing. So you yourself, and this is the next part, you yourself have to physically, verbally, on purpose, denounce these things, tear down these things, set down these things, give away these things. You have to on purpose do these things. It says, God says some things we have come to love is harming his people in how they operate. So they must be removed. These things are things you must do physically, visibly, and verbally, meaning you have to some things you may say, okay, God, boom, I'm done with that in your heart, and you never pick it up again. But then that thing may be the very thing that you need to do visibly so that 20 other people can see it, because they may need to see someone do what they are struggling to do. Your heart may be a heart that automatically falls into obedience, but you may need to say it out loud. There may be someone that needs to hear you say, I'm no longer worshiping this. I'm no longer celebrating that. I'm no longer buying this when they say buy this. Okay. And so, because that awakens the spirit. Is kind of like when Mary went to visit Elizabeth. When Mary went to visit Elizabeth, the baby inside of Elizabeth's belly was older than the baby inside of Mary's belly, but the baby inside of Elizabeth's belly jumped in excitement because of the knowledge of what Mary was carrying. Okay. And so that is what goes on when you verbally, when you do testimony, when you allow the process to actually happen, so that you can tell when you went through bad moments, when you can tell when you were about to lose your mind. You can tell people when you came out of it and how you experienced the outcome, or if you didn't do the outcome right and you had to go back through a cycle. You will have verbiage proof, verbal proof that you went through these things. And then there will be sight. People will see that you have gone through these things. Okay. And so that's why we are going to have to denounce these things physically, visibly, verbally, okay, on purpose. All right. There's some things we're going to have to stop shopping in certain places, stop buying certain things, stop saying certain words in certain ways. Okay. So, in this part right here, hold on. Okay, so in this part right here, God is referring to Josiah, and it says Josiah was 8 years old. He was granted king, and he ended up finding this book, and this, you can find these stories in 2 Kings 22, 23, and 23, and then you could find it in Chronicles 34. Okay, and he reigned for 31 years. That's a little backstory on it. But anyway, Josiah was this king. He had discovered a book of scripture, and finally realized that he himself and a whole bunch of kings before him had just totally been doing it wrong, had been going against what it was that God believed, or that God desires for them to do, and how God desired for them to do it. And Josiah himself at 8 years old went out and he began to tell everyone, hey, we have been doing it wrong. We are not supposed to have this. We're not supposed to be eating with these. This is not even supposed to be in here. You know what I mean? And he gave this decree. He put everybody onto a fast, and then he got everyone together, and he demanded that everyone remove these things from their home. That they tear down these monuments and so on and so forth, burn and melt these golden statues that they have had honored Malich and all these other gods with, and so on and so forth. Okay. And it says these things must be removed. And it was an explanation. It was like a demand on that. God says these things, they must be removed. You will not have that peace that you're looking for. You will have peace. I can give you peace. But this here is a blockage, a curse that is upon you guys, that you can't just paint over it. You literally have to get rid of it. Okay, it's kind of like mold, bad mold. You can't just constantly paint over it. Eventually, it'll come through that paint. Okay, so that is what God says. These things must be removed. Referring also to pouring the new wine into the old wineskin. It's going to burst. Okay, so it says, do not allow others to cause you to despise my provision upon you. God says, don't allow other people to cause you to hate the blessing that he is placing upon you, to make you feel like that it's less than, to make you feel like you're not worthy for it, to make you feel like it's too soon, to make you sign it back over. Okay. It says, for my provision for you is always more than enough for you. Okay, so God's provision for you is always more than enough for you. Okay, because that is what it's designed for. When he sent it out, he sent it out specifically and said, finances go to Cindy. You know what I mean? Healing go to Molly. You know what I mean? Like he specifically sent it out for you. So don't allow other people to make you feel like that the blessing that God has sent to you isn't enough, or that it is that you are not worthy of the blessing. Okay, it says be thankful, as Paul, who in Philippians 4:12 admits how he himself had to learn to be abased and abound. He had to learn to live above his means, in between and below. Okay, he had to learn how to be faithful to God even when the people that God sent him to wasn't even faithful to him. So did Jesus and Moses and so many other people have had to continue on even when no one physically was on their side. Okay, all right, so Proverbs 22:1, and that talks about having a good name over having riches and honor. I mean gold. Okay, it says royal status and riches doesn't always mean visible with coins in great fashion. Riches are just as well as having honesty, integrity, a good name attached to your image. Okay, it says, as Jesus suggested, that when we ask in his name, as those that came before him asked in the names of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob. What mark will you leave that will bring honor upon your name, your lineage, to where people are granted access because you chose to walk upright according to God's purpose and plan for your life? Everyone's life journey will be different. We become stagnant when we try to align in a purpose that is not our own. So when someone is asking God to do it for them, know that it was in your name that they asked. They asked because they saw your walk, your commitment, your endurance, your perseverance. They may not have said in Cindy's name, but when their hearts became heavy with a situation like yours, they looked at your faith, its outcome, and from their hearts, they said, God, do it for me. And unknowingly, they said it in your name. God, do it for me, just as you did it for such and such. Okay? So when we come into position, Black people, when we rise in power, when we increase in our financial stability, when we increase in wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, business endeavors, branding, when we increase in all of these things, corporation, and so on and so forth, when we increase in these places, we ourselves need to remember not to hold our testimony to ourselves, not to hold certain actions to ourselves, that it is okay to do these actions and say these things out loud, that we are bringing honor unto God and to his name for his people. Thank you guys for listening. My name is Cindy. I'm sorry I had you guys for so long, but in soon time, I will learn how to shorten these videos, but this one is packed with great things. Congratulations to my African American people. Congratulations to those who have always had a great heart, that are not just African American people. They are my Caucasians and my Hispanics and my Indian heritage people. So thank you guys for not being racist. Those of you that have not harmed a Black person, those of you that have not been saying any kind of derogatory statement towards us, those that have not allowed your heart to be bitter with hatred towards someone of my nationality, of my culture. I thank you for that, okay? And God is about to bless you as well, all right? You are about to be a part of the blessing. So let's celebrate, all right? Cinco de Mayo, all right? Even though it's not Cinco de Mayo, it's literally July 12th. But anyway, thank God for his many, many blessings. And go back and read a lot of those scriptures that I gave out. I didn't read many of them, but they all are packed with goodness from God. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.